For nearly 500 years, historians have analyzed the impact Luther and his colleagues had on the world and on the religious life of those who would follow. People point to the impact in politics, economics, education, and society as a whole. While all of these things are interesting, historians frequently overlook what was at the core of Luther's Reformation: preaching. It may surprise you to hear that as much as anything else, the Reformation was a preaching movement. How so? It centers on the issue Luther took up in the 95 Theses: who has the authority to forgive sins? Luther's point was simple: sins against God could be forgiven by anyone in the name of Christ, even a simple local priest. And how did the priest do this? He could give a short little sermon: in the name of Christ, you are forgiven. Simply put, Luther recognized the authority of the church rests not in the Pope, but in the words of Christ spoken by a preacher in a sermon. And the sermon didn't need to be very complicated. It could be as simple as naming sin and forgiving that sin. That's it. That means for Luther, and for those who follow in Luther's footsteps, a sermon does not include advice about how to live your life, love your neighbors, or even how to vote on a political issue. Such sermons were as common in Luther's time as they are now, and Luther knew they only added to the to-do lists of the congregation members. Instead, a sermon speaks the words of Christ, naming and forgiving sin. That sermon then becomes an "it's been done" list. Jesus did it for you. He lived, died, and was resurrected for the forgiveness of your sin. All of this was said and done so you can remember: a mighty fortress is our God.